we are discussing about the vaccines. The first vaccine developed was against smallpox vaccine, and this was developed by Edward Jenner. This was developed by Edward Jenner. The first vaccine was developed by Edward Jenner, and that is cowpox giving immunity against smallpox. So the cowpox, the person who were exposed to cowpox, they developed immunity against smallpox. This principle was utilized. So this question has been asked many times in UPSC and state PCS. The first vaccine was developed by Edward Jenner. Another great scientist in the field of immunization is Louis Pasteur. Another great scientist is your Louis Pasteur, and he developed the vaccine against anthrax. Anthrax disease is found in cattle. Anthrax is found in cattle, cow, buffalo, etc. Louis Pasteur is also associated with another great process called pasteurization. So all your milk or juice you will find they are pasteurized, whether it is milk or juice. They are pasteurized. So Louis Pasteur developed another great process called pasteurization. Pasteurization. The process of vaccination is an example of active immunity. Active means some portion, activity. By active immunity we mean the body cells are taking part in this process. So vaccination is an example of active immunity. So here what happens? Body produces antibody against the pathogen. So here it is the individual body produces antibody against the pathogen. So here it is the body which is making the antibodies. Then there is another concept called passive immunity. One very common example of passive immunity is your anti-tetanus serum, ATS. Anti-tetanus serum. Often when we meet with an accident, we take the injection of ATS, anti-tetanus serum. We take the injection of anti-tetanus serum when we meet with an accident. So basically, this is against bacteria called Clostridium tetani. This is against Clostridium tetani. So I am not going into too depth of that. This is against a bacteria. But here the antibody is produced in another animal, maybe horse or some other animal. So you produce the antibody against the tetanus bacteria, that is Clostridium tetani. You produce the antibody against tetanus bacteria in animal, against the tetanus bacteria, say in a horse. Now from a horse we take out the antibodies and inject to ourselves. So that is the concept of your passive immunity. Passive means body is not playing an active role. Passive means individual's body is not playing a active role. So here the antibodies are produced outside the body. This is also in the case of anti-venom. This is also the case of anti-venom. You produce antibody against venom is antibody against venom is produced in horse. We inject the horse with small amount of venom and the horse body produces antibody against the venom. We take it out and then we use it against snake bite in case of human. So this is example of your passive immunity. This is example of passive immunity. Now in case of polio vaccine, if we take into account polio vaccine, we have two main type of polio vaccine. The first one is your injectable polio vaccine. Injectable means injection is given into the muscle or inside the skin, into muscle, that is called intramuscular or intradermal. So this was developed by Jonas Salk. Injectable polio vaccine was developed by Jonas Salk, and this is 100% safe. Why it is 100% safe? It contains killed virus. So one type of vaccine is your killed pathogen. So the injectable polio vaccine contains killed virus. The second type of vaccine against polio is your OPV, oral polio vaccine. The second type is your OPV. Oral polio vaccine. And this contains your killed virus. Oral polio vaccine contains live virus. Injectable polio vaccine contains killed virus developed by Jonas Salk, and the oral polio vaccine, it contains live attenuated virus. Attenuation means the virus had been made weak. The virus is made weak by growing in unnatural host. When you grow the virus in unnatural host, it becomes weak. So in case of oral polio vaccine, which was developed by another great fellow called Albert Sabin, this contains live and weak virus. Now if you compare the oral polio vaccine with injectable polio vaccine, injectable polio vaccine is 100% safe. Safety is better in case of killed vaccine, that is the injectable one. Just focus on this point. 100% safe. Which one? Injectable. Whereas in case of oral vaccine, sometimes the attenuated virus may mutate, leading to vaccine-derived poliomyelitis. So you give the vaccine to the child and the child develops polio. Why? The virus mutates and becomes powerful again. That is why. But one thing is, delivering OPV is similar, is very simple. The advertisement of government says 2 drops of life. In Hindi they say दो बूंद जिंदगी की. So Indian program started with injectable polio vaccine, and then we've shifted to oral polio vaccine. At present, both injectable and oral polio vaccine are there. Both injectable and oral polio vaccine are there. This now polio has been a major challenge not only for India but also for the community across the globe. An initiative was started globally called GPEI, Global Polio Eradication Initiative. Global Polio Eradication Initiative. So this is basically a public-private initiative. Some of the key points. Public-private partnership or initiative. So WHO, Rotary Club, the American CDC, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, UNICEF, private organizations, etc. were involved in it. So the basic purpose was what? To eradicate polio globally. At present, polio is endemic in few countries, particularly in Africa and Afghanistan. Many of these countries, in Afghanistan, Pakistan, you have presence of polio. Due to terrorism and other aspect, proper vaccination has neither been done in Afghanistan and also in Pakistan. In Africa, Nigeria, there have been some report that polio can make a comeback even in your West Asia due to civil war. The vaccination process has broken down due to civil war in parts of Africa and West Asia. So there is a threat that polio can make a comeback in some of these countries. Now we have 3 types of polio viruses: type 1, type 2, type 3. Type 2 was eradicated in September 15. It was declared eradicated in September 2015. Type 3 has not been detected anywhere for a long time, so type 1 is more prominent. Now there is a program called Pulse Polio. There is this program called Pulse Polio. So here the key theme is synchronized vaccination. Synchronization. So what synchronization? All the vaccine are given on the same day. On same day, across the country, children are given vaccine of polio. So that is the concept of synchronized vaccination. And this gives better result. That is why now government is trying to extend the concept of synchronization to other disease also. We have a thing called worms. In young children, you have presence of ascaris. That is why now this synchronization has been extended to the concept of deworming day. So on National Deworming Day, single dose of drug albendazole is given to all the children to kill ascaris in their stomach. On the same day, all the children across the country are given a single dose of the drug albendazole. So when you synchronize things, the chance of reducing or chance of eliminating it increases. Now the next point is zoonotic diseases. There is a term called zoonotic disease. So what is zoonotic? So zoonotic diseases are diseases that are transmissible transmissible between animal and man, and vice versa. They can move from animal to man and man to animal. Example are Ebola, Zika, swine flu, HIV, bird flu, Nipah, then the COVID. These all example of zoonotic disease. So zoonotic disease, remember, important diseases that can be transmitted either from animal to man or man to animal. Another example of zoonotic disease is your rabies. Is another simple example. One of the most common example that you remember of zoonotic disease is rabies. Rabies is transferred from the bite of dogs and some of the wild animals, and it affects the nervous system. Then there are three terms which are often used in newspaper or in articles. You will find that three terms. One by one we will pick it up. The first one is endemic. Endemic means disease occurring in a local area. For example, Kala Azar is endemic in Bihar, parts of Bihar, Jharkhand, and some district of Bengal. Endemic means localized. Second term is epidemic. The second term is your epidemic. The first term is endemic. Second term is epidemic. Epidemic means the disease occurring in much greater or much higher proportion. Say earlier 1% of the people were affected, and if say this year 3% of the population or 4% of the population gets affected, we use the term the disease has acquired a pandemic proportion. Means disease occurring in much greater proportion. Epidemic has occurred in epidemic proportion. Disease occurring in much greater proportion. Third is pandemic. Pandemic means the disease has a global occurrence. There is global occurrence of the disease. This is called pandemic. So endemic means disease occurring in a localized area. Epidemic, much greater proportion. Say, let's take for example dengue. So the average occurrence, say in case of dengue, is 10 per million, for example. Now in a year, if this increases to 40 per million or 30 per million, we use the term that the disease has acquired a epidemic proportion. We use the term that the disease has acquired a epidemic proportion. And third is pandemic. Pandemic means global occurrence of the disease. Pandemic means global occurrence of the disease. Global occurrence of the disease. For example, COVID-19, if I discuss about pandemic, in the beginning, if we talk about pandemic, in the beginning, COVID-19 was localized in China. Say, so when it was localized, we could use the term endemic. The disease is endemic to this country. Now this has become pandemic all across the world. Due to greater interconnectivity, people-to-people contact and other, the disease has spread across the globe. So COVID-19, which was endemic in the beginning only to China, has spread worldwide. So a disease that is endemic can become a pandemic depending upon the extent. It depends on the extent to which pandemic is there. In how many countries you have the occurrence of it. So endemic and pandemic, they are basically about your extent. They are about extent. To what extent the disease has spread. To what extent the disease has spread. Then another important disease is your dengue. Dengue has been in a lot of news. Every year in India, particularly during the monsoon period, the number of mosquito increase, and with the increase in mosquito population, you have increase in the occurrence of dengue. Now, dengue virus consists of 4 serotypes. If you remember, we had discussed that like human races, there are different variations. So dengue has 4 serotypes, den 1, den 2, den 3 and den 4. Den 1 to den 4. These are the 4 serotypes. Dengue is considered to be zoonotic disease. Why? The point is, dengue virus has been isolated in many water birds also. Many of the birds exhibit presence of this virus. That is why we say dengue is a zoonotic disease. Dengue is a zoonotic disease. Now moving on to transmission. Dengue is transmitted by mosquito Aedes aegypti. Aedes mosquito. And there is another species of Aedes called Aedes albopictus. So dengue is spread by Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. This Aedes aegypti is also called tiger mosquito. We call this Aedes aegypti also tiger mosquito. Why tiger mosquito? This has black and white stripe on the body. White and black and white stripe. So if a mosquito is shiny, that mosquito is Aedes mosquito. So Aedes mosquito, Aedes species spreads the disease called dengue. And you have different, 2 species are important. One is Aedes aegypti. Generally you will find reference to Aedes aegypti, but in many of the African countries they have shown presence of albopictus also, Aedes albopictus. Even in some of the southern states, Aedes albopictus is also involved in spread of the disease. Now if you find a shiny mosquito, that is the chances it is a tiger, it is Aedes aegypti. Now one important aspect of Aedes mosquito is it breeds in clean water. It does not lay egg in your dirty water. So we had discussed about Aedes variety. So Aedes albopictus, Aedes aegypti, other Aedes also. Aedes polynesian, they are different. But remember, Aedes in India, these 2 species are important. Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. These 2 are important in Indian context. Aegypti and albopictus. But other Aedes species are also there. Now what are the symptoms of dengue? Fever. The symptoms of dengue are fever, high fever, headache, pain behind the eye, very specific. Then muscle and joint pain, nausea, swollen gland, rashes on body, etc. are there. But one is pain behind the eye, in the orbital side. Pain behind the eye, that is very specific. High fever, sometimes headache. The symptom can be variable. And one important thing is platelet count is reduced. The number of platelet is reduced in case of dengue. That is why in case of dengue, one of the concept is platelet complete blood count. The doctor asks for complete blood count. CBC. The doctor asks for complete blood count. In case of dengue, so primarily he wants to find out whether the platelet count has gone down or not. If the platelet count has not gone down, then then the person is on the safer side. Now we have emergence of dengue vaccine also, quite late, but at least it has come. The first vaccine made globally against dengue is Dengvaxia. This has been developed by the French firm Sanofi Pasteur. So Louis Pasteur was Frenchman. The French firm Sanofi Pasteur has developed the vaccine against dengue. It is not approved in India, but more than 10 countries have now given permission to this dengue vaccine. Now what is the treatment? Symptomatic treatment. In case of dengue, symptomatic treatment is there, and sometimes, not regular, sometimes platelet infusion. Platelet infusion. If the platelet count is reduced drastically, then the person can be given platelet infusion. There is a government program for control of such insect-borne disease, and the name of that program is National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program, NVBDCP, National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program, NVBDCP, National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program. So this central government or health ministry program covers 6 diseases. It covers 6 diseases: dengue, chikungunya, malaria, Japanese encephalitis, elephantiasis, and kala-azar. So these 7 diseases are covered under your NVBDCP, National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program. It covers these 6 diseases. Then the next disease, viral RNA virus disease, is your chikungunya. Again, this disease is transmitted by mosquito. Vector-borne disease. Here the transmission is by what? Mosquito. So chikungunya is transmitted by mosquito, and this again is transmitted by the same Aedes mosquito. Aedes. This is also transmitted by Aedes mosquito. So here the symptoms are similar to dengue. Similar to dengue. In case of chikungunya, the symptoms are similar to dengue. Vector is same, Aedes aegypti, and symptoms also same. This leads to fever, joint pain, etc. Other symptoms are like muscle pain, fatigue, and other. So often you have to distinguish between chikungunya and dengue. But platelet count is not reduced. One important aspect is no reduction in platelet numbers. No reduction in platelet numbers. So this differentiates chikungunya from dengue. Here also treatment is symptomatic. Now in all these diseases which are spread through mosquito, one of the important component of the disease control program is controlling the insect population. For controlling dengue, chikungunya, malaria, etc., the most critical aspect is controlling insect population. That is why there is a term called integrated pest management. Pest means which cause disease. So insect and pest. So basically we try to control the population of mosquito or insect which cause the disease. Now what can be the way to control the population of insect or vectors? The first aspect is your chemical control. That is the use of chemicals. For example, what can be the chemical? DDT, parathion, malathion. There are different type of chemicals which are used to control the population of mosquito. So that is example of chemical control. The second one is your biological control, and this is the use of living organisms to control insect population. Biological control means use of one living organism against the other. Use of one living organism against other. So when you use one living organism to control other, that is called biological control. Third is your now use of one living organism other against. For example of that is larvivorous fish. Means what? Fishes that eat the larva. Example of them are Gambusia. This question, which of the following is a larvivorous fish, has been asked multiple times. Gambusia. They eat larvae of mosquito. Similarly, guppies, tilapia, nymphalis. So these are the fish varieties which eat the mosquito larvae which are there in the water. Nymphalis is being used for cold water fish in hilly areas. The mosquito population has even increased in hilly areas. That is why in those areas we will use the special fish called nymphalis. They eat the larva of mosquito. Then another variety is your copepods. These are similar to prawns. So they belong to Arthropoda, the insect group only. But copepods belong to the same group as prawns. So Vietnam has extensively used copepods to control mosquito population. Vietnam has extensively used copepods to control the mosquito population. To control the mosquito population. Then Australia. In case of Australia, Australia had used a bacteria called Wolbachia bacteria. So Australia has used this bacteria to control the population of Aedes mosquito. So what it does, it shortens the life. The life of the mosquito larva is shortened, and therefore it reduces the chance of transmission of disease, because the mosquito larvae is living for a few days or it dies. So when it dies, the chance of transmission is reduced. Then the next is genetically modified mosquito, GM mosquito. This has been used to control mosquito population. What they have done, they have put lethal gene into genetically modified male mosquito. They have put lethal gene in GM male mosquito. When these male mosquito mate with the normal female, they transfer the lethal gene into the offspring. So when the offspring are born, they die at a younger age. When the offspring are born, they die at a younger age.